The RBI's ambitious CBDC pilot program has kicked off today. The CBDC is touted as a game changer in the way we make payments and transact. Basically, the e-Rupee, the digital rupee, has become a reality from today, and it is the RBI's counter to the crypto craze in a sense. What it promises or claims to do is make payments more efficient, make remittances cheaper, and increase regulation of cryptos. India has led the way in digital payments with UPI, and now it seems to be making serious headway in the next tech upgrade. But before we dive into what this really means, is this going to be a game changer as is claimed or not? Let me go across to this report filed by my colleague Ankur, who's actually done a demonstration of what it would mean in the real world to use CBDC.
Central bank digital currency is up for pilot testing, and I am standing at a location where this testing is being done. You would be wondering what will exactly happen in CBDC. Now I have with me the QR code. This QR code will be used for transferring of central bank digital currency to small merchants for payments as it is done in UPI. Now this is different kind of QR code which is being used. Remember, this is just a testing purpose. The final outcome of testing may be different, but as of now, this is what the QR code of central bank digital currency look like. We also have with us the owner of this shop where RBI will be testing. मेरा आपसे पहला सवाल यही है कि आपसे क्या बोला गया है कि किस तरीके से ये टेस्टिंग की जाएगी और इससे क्या फ़ायदा होगा? क्या आपको कोई ऐप डाउनलोड करने को बोला गया है?
हाँ सर, ऐप डाउनलोड करने को भी बोला गया है हमें। जैसे कि वॉलेट वाला ऐप कुछ है वो हिसाब से वो होगा और डाउनलोड आप वो करवा के देंगे हमको। बैंक वाले RBI वाले करेंगे या फिर IDFC वाले करवा के देंगे, ऐसा हमको बोला गया है। और इसका फ़ायदा तो मैं बोल ही चुका हूँ क्योंकि मतलब ये 8वीं से लेके लास्ट तक का डिपॉजिट कर सकते हैं पैसा, और ये इस बैंक में या RBI बैंक में कनेक्शन होने की वजह से पैसा हमारा सेफ रहेगा। दूसरा तो ये बैंक बहुत मतलब RBI गवर्नमेंट बैंक है, इसकी वजह से लगभग अच्छा ही वो होगा रिजल्ट।
As he was explaining the benefits of CBDC, the small denominations which were a problem for payments earlier, which was solved by UPI. Now we need to wait and see whether or not this could be the UPI moment. You would have seen that how UPI became a success over the years. It will be seen after the launch of CBDC whether or not this is the UPI moment for India.
All right, to speak more on this, I'm joined now by Ajit Khurana of Reflexical, Jaya Vaidyanathan, BCT Digital with me on the show. I'm speaking with Julia Demidova of FIS and Manoj Dalmia of Pro Assets Exchange. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us. Now, I want to keep this simple so it's clear to our viewers what we're really talking about. And let me start with Ms. Vaidyanathan and your views. Is this really going to be a game changer? Because right now it's difficult to distinguish real world usage between e-currency or the digital rupee and a usual transaction based on UPI or any other online payment method.
So it's good to demystify the difference between a UPI transaction and what goes on with the digital rupee, because principally they're quite different. Digital currency is nothing but what you make on a UPI is nothing but a digital representation of what you have in physical form in your bank account. And a digital rupee, it's not a representation of a digital currency, physical currency underneath. So the transaction costs are quite going to be different. It is more in terms of what you buy once and then it's wallet to wallet. So there is the issue of anonymity, and it is a counter more to the cryptocurrency on that side rather than replacing what you do with a UPI payment. So with cryptocurrency, there was always the question that came about with countries saying, is that deregulated? What is the settlement risk, etc.? And with the FTX crash happening, a lot of the fears came true, where it said that it's underlying a platform where settlement risk is an issue. So it is a form of currency which is not in physical form, which is not representation of the physical currency underneath like a UPI payment, but at the same time, it's backed by sovereign guarantee on settlement. So it's a healthy balance between what you think of in terms of a UPI payment as well as a cryptocurrency in short form.
Ms. Julia, the question is that if it's going to be a counter to crypto, as Ms. Vaidyanathan said, then is it...
Of course, maybe just, on top of, what the panelists, the colleagues, have said, CBDC is a new digital, format of money.
But ma'am, if I could just pose my question, if that's all right. My question is that if it's supposed to be a counter to cryptos, it's India's own e-Rupee, is it really going to be an alternative if you can't make money off it? The reason that people like cryptocurrencies is because they track the value of Bitcoin and, for example, and they like to make money off it. It's an investment. This is not an investment. Without that investment shine, why would anyone want to use the e-Rupee is what I'm trying to understand. Why are we calling it a game changer?
Of course, maybe I can just, elaborate on, types of money you have today. And of course, at FIS, we support, different alternative payment methods and, we support, digital assets. CBDC is a new digital format of money and digital payment of method issued by the central bank. Of course, some are saying that, this is going to be the next evolution of money. CBDC, I think, will be a major source of innovation and it, will have a new payment and money features and functionalities, such as, programmability. And today we don't have, some of these new features and functionalities with our money. Of course, while there will likely be different configurations of CBDC around the world, most agree that CBDC will be a direct claim on the central bank, fully fungible and exchanged at par with other forms of fiat and the commercial bank money. Money has taken, different forms, over the centuries, and today there are two main, types of money. I think, as my, colleagues on the panel have said, there are two types of money in existence today: the central bank issued money and the commercial bank issued money. Of course, while I think, both are national denominated unit of account, the difference is where the liability is. The central bank money is often considered, to be the safest form of money, and there is no credit, or liquidity of risk associated, with, central bank money, and it usually comes in, two forms, cash and also as reserves. Reserves are, of course, available, to commercial banks today. We did actually, at FIS, we did a market sizing on CBDCs, and we found that CBDCs could capture up to 20% of total global payments by 2030. And, those would be amounting to $2.2 quadrillion. And of course, according to our research, the speed and adoption of CBDCs would really depend on the levels of functionality and features that CBDC will have. And of course, exogenous events will also, trigger and accelerate demand and adoption for CBDC.
All that's great, ma'am. All that's great, ma'am. But if I can ask you the question I'm asking you, why would anyone want to go in for CBDC, say, in India? Why should anyone go in for the digital rupee? We have a perfectly successful system which in practice gives you the same experience. So what will make the digital rupee attractive? Why do you think anyone will shift to it?
Again, I think, the reason why, people would use digital rupee is because it's a, central bank issued money, and central banks are, trusted institutions to issue, money today. And I think, there are a lot of, new, opportunities for central banks. Financial inclusion is, of course, one of the major, opportunities for central banks to, tackle those who are unbanked today. And of course, there are many other opportunities, and digital, rupee can provide, high quality and, low cost, money to the consumers, to the end user. So a lot of benefits there, but maybe my colleagues, on the panel.
Let me take it to Ajit. Let me take it to Ajit Khurana. We've spent some time so far explaining what a digital rupee is. how the pilot will work. And today is actually launched. So I want to move forward from there, Ajit. It's here. Is it going to make a difference is my question. And I come back to why Indians took to cryptos in such an enthusiastic way. We know that craze, which we saw, and the sprouting of all of these exchanges, etc. Then they've sort of petered down because of policy. If e-Rupee is the counter, is it attractive if its value obviously doesn't change because it's a stable fiat currency? That's how it's backing it. So why would I go in for an e-Rupee? My UPI, my IMPS, all of that is working perfectly well. I'm trying to understand what the pitch here is to the average Indian.
You are absolutely right. The Indian payment system, digital payment system such as UPI, were already extremely friendly and inclusive as long as you had a mobile device, which by the way is required even for the digital rupee. We can't do away with that. So number one, in its present form as it has been released today, from the user's point of view, not the backend, not the settlement, not how the technology, from the user's point of view, the today's rupee, digital rupee does not really do much. But if we see this as a first step to many, tomorrow's digital rupee, I think will be far, far superior to UPI. Your question about why would a cryptocurrency market participant prefer this? Frankly, the answer is because I'm a participant in both markets. I don't see anybody who participated in the crypto market for speculative intent, which means hoping to get an investment return. There is absolutely nothing in this which helps that. If somebody was using crypto for a payment mechanism and there is a negligible usage of crypto as payment mechanism, the case could be made that this is superior, being central bank backed. I agree, but people were not using crypto for payments, at least in the Indian context.
Right, you're absolutely right. Cryptos weren't being used for payments. They were not allowed at all from the get-go. That was very, very clear that nothing else but the rupee or any, fiat-backed currency will be used for payments. So again, what is going to be the game changer? Manoj Dalmia, I've been waiting since yesterday. I've been tracking the story to hear a strong case for the e-Rupee. Apart from everything, of course, in the RBI's press release, it sounds great with the first off the block. Frankly, I still don't get it. Can you make a persuasive argument?
Hi, everyone. Actually, I'm more bullish about the e-Rupees of by the RBI and the government because sometimes India is approaching of the digital currency like that. Is far different from the cryptocurrency and everything. So government is actually do not promote the cryptocurrencies and everything. So they will promote their currencies and the stable coins, just like the stable coins, and it's fluctuate just like the INR such a way. So I think it will be accept more and more, and the transparency in the society and the payment system is more feasible in the blockchain because the government introduced own blockchain is there. So as a cryptocurrency, that there is no permission of the blockchain. They can use any blockchain of that. So I think there is a lack of transparency. Is a great transparency in the payment system, and the government have accountability of the possession of the currencies or the hold of the money with the users and the Indian citizens also. So I have one thing more that in spite of that, the cyber security is the main concern of that. So no one are talking about that. How do we control over the cyber security in the banking system or in this payment system, in the wallet system we are talking about?
Your argument,
my concern is more about that.
Is your argument that this is safer? Is your argument that e-Rupee is safer than the current banking system?
I doubt, because right now you heard about that the AIMS server is hacked and the government, no one can do anything. And so we have to generate an ecosystem like a cyber security, just like army, the digital army, and we have to protect our citizens.
That's a broader point that you're making.
Yeah.
Let me bring it back to Jaya. Let me bring it to Jaya Vaidyanathan. I'm reading a report right now that bankers, of course, none of them are being quoted, are saying this is actually more work for us. E-Rupee is more work for us. The way you settle it is different from, the regular online payments. And the volumes are right now low. So the product has to have an inherent feature which is either bringing utility, which is bringing value, which is bringing something to the end consumer for it to work. Is there a case for CBDC?
There are a lot of cases for CBDC, Tamanna, and I think it's a combination of a lot of valid questions that you asked. Now, who is going to be using this CBDC? So there are two categories of what you're talking about. One is if I'm comfortable with UPI payments, why would I be looking at this? See, the technology is quite different and the uses are different. It is going to be worked the first time around to quickly answer your question. But once it's set up, then with more and more adoption, the cost is going to come down significantly. It is backed by blockchain technology, which is known to be safer. And it's the fundamental of blockchain is that it's immutable, which means that it's going to be like a centralized repository where you store once and subsequent use cases are going to be much higher. So from a user point of view, it also brings in security and anonymity to your transactions. You buy it once from a commercial bank, post that the way that you trade is going to be a lot more anonymity, and therefore privacy is going to be something that is, a significant feature of this currency. Second, you asked if, I'm doing crypto and I'm on speculatory mode, why would I enter this? This is not designed for speculators. If I am somebody that wants to use this as a convenience in form of a platform, cryptocurrency was used because it was decentralized, but it did have significant settlement risks. In this case, there's no settlement risk. I'm very comfortable with it. It's going to be worked the first time around. It's a pilot, but you understand, Tamanna, that we spend more than 5,000 crore of rupees every time just printing currency. And it's a massive waste. The whole world is moving towards sustainability. We need to bring costs of all of this massive printing down, and also a way of tracking all of this. So I think it's going to be work first time around, but subsequently, it's going to be a much better form, more efficient mode of transfer and all of that.
Okay, now one clear answer I've gotten is cost of printing. Cost of printing goes down. Ajit, is that the future? Where right now, currency is issued by various countries. Their central banks issue currency, and it's backed by a sovereign promise, right? That when I give someone a 10 rupee note, it's a promise by the Reserve Bank of India that yes, this 10 rupees is 10 rupees. It's not going to become 8 or 11 tomorrow. So is this the use case that in the future, these printing of notes will not really be required and you'll move to a different method altogether?
So if you look at the volume of transaction, the largest transactions even presently are digital. That means they don't involve currency notes. But the largest number of transactions, the micro transactions which happen at retail level or between individuals, in number of transactions, it's almost all currency note based. While the RBI policy note or whatever concept note of 7th October, just a month and a half ago, says this is not meant to replace the currency notes. Frankly, all the features that they talk about in those 30, 40 pages are all the features of the currency note. So indeed, it seems like they are trying to replace, without explicitly stating so, they are trying to reduce the use of currency notes, so printing, counterfeiting, and all of those other things with a digital format. And in that case, if there can be a certain level of disintermediation, which means that this can be more inclusive than UPI, which still requires the same sort of bank accounts and KYCs, etc.
I want to come back to you on that, because that's the point that others have also made. Even Julia made that point. Financial inclusion in e-Rupee. How is that going to happen? Why is that going to happen? By financial inclusion, you mean you give financial services to each and every person in this country. In far-flung corners where you might not have electricity, internet connection, you still offer financial services. How is the e-Rupee going to help with that? Can you explain that?
Compared to a currency note, the currency note is completely inclusive. Literally, the most far-flung person today can access that piece of paper.
Right.
However, if you want to move to digital, what is happening is that other than the things that you talked about, which is electricity and need for device, these two things unfortunately are required for any form of digital rupee. However, in addition, the current format of UPI, etc., requires you to have a bank account. Now, the number of unbanked in India is about, adults is around 17 crores. And these people would want a bank account despite all the attempts, The reason it has not happened is that the current system of banking onboarding is leaving 17 crore adult Indians out. This method could be better if one thing comes true, which is, by the way, not true as of the digital rupee that was issued today. If it could be like a bearer instrument, which means I may have an account with no bank. However, I have that software that can store this digital rupee. So I have the digital rupee. Yes, it will be more inclusive. If a bank account is required to begin with, then it is only as inclusive as our UPI.
So then again, that's a big if over there. I've got Julia back on the line with me. Julia, would you want to add to this conversation? We're trying to understand how this can go further. Sure. I mean, it's great to have a pilot launch, all the fanfare, that's great. But on day one, we need to talk about whether it's really going to move to the next step or not.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your question. Very good, question. I think, there are different, policy objectives, and, there are different design objectives, and, we have discussed, some of those design decisions today. I think, part of central bank's mandate is to very much provide the resilient, secure, and accessible money and payment means, to the end users. Central banks are the guardians of the financial stability and effective monetary policy, and they need to maintain the integrity of the payment systems. And of course, looking at modernization of payment systems today and how we can reshape the payment, services is very important. Going to the financial inclusion point, I think that's very important, but that's not the only kind of policy objective that central bank would pursue. There are a lot of other objectives. I've mentioned financial stability, monetary sovereignty, access to central bank money, transparency, privacy. Again, there are different levels of transparency and privacy that could be configurable to digital rupee, and of course inclusion of those who are unbanked today, or for some reason they don't trust the banks, and they don't believe in the system. So there is an opportunity to make cash, digital rupee, accessible, to those who are unbanked today. And maybe quickly on the pain points, we have mentioned that the cash is declining today. Again, I think all the central banks across the globe have indicated that CBDC will be complementary to the existing payment means, and the cash is going to stay for those who want to pay in cash. But there are other pain points that central banks are trying to tackle globally. For example, the pain point of cross-border payments. So they are relatively slow, expensive, inefficient today. There are operational overheads for the businesses and government departments, having the failed payments and reconciliation. There is a cost of business banking. Of course, there is a cost of printing cash. There is also a problem of card transaction costs and fees, and of course also bulk payments today on average take a few days. So there are a lot of pain points, and that central banks across the globe are trying to tackle, and a lot of policy objectives that we are seeing central banks are trying to tackle.
So this is the first step, to put it simply. The form of digital rupee you're saying is perhaps a baby step into something that could be a reality down the line. How far it goes, we'll have to see, especially in a country like India. Just to leave you with some food for thought, cash is still very, very much king in this country. The amount of cash in the system has gone to all-time highs just as early as a few weeks ago. So we are a nation that loves cash. We will continue to love cash. For the e-Rupee to succeed, it has to add value over and above all the options we have already. We'll have to wait and see if that actually gets done. But for now, I want to thank all of you for joining us on this discussion this evening.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.